Welcome back to the Opportunistic Trader for Monday. I'm happy to be joined by Greg, who is our expert in FX, and he trades under the tag North Hero FX, and he is really wired into the currency markets across the world, and it would be interesting to hear his insight as of last week and what thoughts he has coming into this week. So I'm happy to bring you Greg.
Morning, guys. I'm looking to give you some excitement, but there's really not much excitement in the FX world. It's the final 2 weeks of the summer. It's a Monday, and I'll give you a couple notes that I'm looking at, but there's really not much to look at to start. Most of the majors are pretty much unchanged from Friday closing. As you know, I've been really focused on emerging market currencies. Turkey leading the pack, and Turkey's on holiday all week this week. So dollar Turkey's about 2% higher, but otherwise in the other emerging market space, there's not much going on. The ones I like to focus on are dollar Rand and dollar Mexico. So I'm sure you've seen that on your end, Larry.
Yeah, it's quiet across the board. On the equity front, obviously it's Tesla getting crushed about 6%, bounced off the low. But, as far as currencies, I've always traded currencies, but I would consider myself more of a novice in that area, even though I've done a lot of trading. And, I'm interested to know your thoughts on sort of methodology of trading to help our members and people that are listening to us, methodology of how your mind works as far as trading, how short term you are, what you're looking for, how you trade the news, which from me watching you for a long time, that's sort of your niche market. So I'd be curious to understand a little bit about that so that I could maybe become a better trader.
I'm a very short-term trader. I look at medium and long-term ideas, but I really am a pure speculator in the currency market. I do look at technicals, so I'll look at 10-minute charts, 30-minute charts, daily charts, just so I know the levels that the pressure points and the support and resistance and the retracement levels. But I'm really a flavor of the day trader. Really, I like to grab a hold of a theme and follow that theme and how it affects the world, whether it's politics, fundamentals, emerging markets. There's always something main focus in the market, and that drives all markets, whether it's driving currencies as well as equities and interest rates. So the biggest themes right now in the currency market with all markets is every country's trying to spur inflation, and that affects interest rates, and of course affects relative value of one currency over another. The thing that we're watching also now, so interest rates is always present in the currency market, but right now it's a lot about Trump's policies, tariffs, and sanctions right now, and that's the thing that we're watching this week as well. Even though it's a quiet week in the summertime and there's no data really, it's all second-tier data this week. We do have a low-level Chinese delegation coming to the States here on Wednesday and Thursday to discuss the tariffs. I do not see a breakthrough coming, and it's something to watch because on Thursday we're still expected to put 25% tariffs on $16 billion of goods. I'm sure you guys are focused on that, but Larry, I'm amazed that through this whole tariff situation, equities really don't care that much.
Nah, it's been an interesting trade. It's kind of a trade that we've seen for, it was funny. I think they were talking about Greece a little bit this morning, and I guess that thing is years and years old. world, and I think it started with that, and what happens is they get the news, and then it kind of creates a short in the market, and then they take the market higher. But I wanted to ask you, it's interesting to me, again, trading currencies, because when I look at the equity market and equity indices, I always look at liquidity, and I'm sure you do as well, but the currency markets are so liquid. Even if you were trading Turkey, you still have liquidity. So you're able to, trade, the Turkish lira, or some off currency, the Russian ruble, easily. Or I shouldn't say easily. Nothing
I
is
wouldn't say
easy.
it's easy
Nothing is
because
easy. But I'm saying
when
you could
when
put
a
on
major
your position size pretty, you know, pretty much. I mean, the spreads are, what they are, but you're able to, do the size that you want pretty much.
I've trimmed back my size in emerging markets over the last 2 weeks because we've had some incredible moves, and that's important for everybody listening or whoever you speak with. I'm sure it's the same way in equities.
Yeah.
You have some currencies moving, 5, 6, 7% a day. That's tremendous. I don't know what that equates to in individual equities, but where the spreads, let's say, typically on $1 million position in dollar Turkey would be 30 points. They're now 130 points. So trading a bigger position is a lot more dangerous, and I definitely have trimmed back my size on the emerging market currencies.
Right, but as the trader, and I've discussed this multiple times, that's one of the hardest things to do for a trader is to gauge volatility and then change position sizing and make sure that, if the Turkish currency is moving 10% an hour, you can't trade it large because you want to be a little bit smaller so that you could stay in position for a move and not get blown out. So that's what makes I think a trader great is someone like yourself being able to say, hey, I've got to pare back. This move is too big, and understanding the size. That's why I always look at options on the indices, because usually, for whatever reason, the options are most of the time right. So if they're pricing in a percent move, most likely we're going to get that. When they, like this morning for expiration today, they're pricing in not very much of a move. So if and when I'm trading S&Ps, I've got to trade a bit larger because the move is going to be a bit smaller. So, that's an interesting thing that, obviously you size basis the move.
You know as well as I do, Larry, that you get that from experience and from scars.
I know, but the hardest days always are when a major like the euro moves 200 pips, because it doesn't really move like that. So you're getting 50 pip moves, and then all of a sudden you get that. We see it a lot in oil, actually. Oil's been really an outlier. You're getting 4 and 5% moves, but like a day like today, you're not really getting the moves. So if you're scalping or trading oil today, you may want to be a little bit bigger because you're not seeing the move, but then all of a sudden you get that move and you're too big. So that's an interesting
we've talked about that many times. If you're used to trading a one lot every day back and forth, there are some times when you have to throw all your chips in there, or you have to be 5 times your normal size when you really have a true feeling, or really the fundamentals change and you're in front of it.
Yeah, especially if you're trading short term. So let's say I bought, I'll equate it to oil at $65, and I thought it was going to go higher for, whatever reason, whether it's fundamental, technical, or, option related. I may trade that for 20 cents, but do a big size, and now, look for that move. So you're right. You can be a lot bigger, but you obviously have to be a lot tighter, and hopefully you get the move quickly.
Yeah, but getting back to FX, I just want to mention a couple things with respect to NAFTA. every day we hear the same kind of thing out of the administration, that we're days away from a breakthrough. We still haven't had a breakthrough. There was some rumblings on Friday that they're closer. I'm a little skeptical. They need to get a deal done before September 1st because of Mexican politics as well as politics here. Um, I'm skeptical because they still haven't included Canada in the negotiations, and it really should be a tri-party arrangement. But the U.S. is trying to get an agreement with Mexico first, so that's something to keep an eye on. The UK, with respect to Brexit, we have some low-level meetings this week, just some technical discussions on Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't expect a breakthrough there. We're going to wait until September when everyone comes back from holiday. As I mentioned earlier, Turkey has holidays this week. We're still waiting for the U.S. administration has mentioned that they will not negotiate under any terms with Turkey unless the pastor is released. So we're waiting with respect to the release of the pastor. And as I mentioned, we talked a little bit about the China talks this week. And I'm sure you're going to cover in whatever you speak about this week, the Jackson Hole Powell speech on Friday. I can't imagine that he's going to say anything outside the box.
Well, you sort of answered. We have a question from someone in the chat room, and they're saying, "Hey, Greg, any thoughts heading into Jackson Hole, and any trade thoughts here about it?" So I guess you just touched on it a bit, but we're being asked if you have any trade thoughts going into it or opinions, and
I don't have any trade thoughts. I haven't given it that much thought yet, but Powell has kept his cards very close to the vest, and they've had this gradual tightening bias. I can't imagine that they're going to deviate from that path. Obviously, people are wondering if they're going to mention anything about tariffs and sanctions, if that's going to impact their decisions. But I think they're also waiting. The Fed is waiting to hear and see what comes out of these talks. They thought the market thought that maybe in the last Fed statement something was going to be mentioned about that, but there wasn't anything. That being said, I was going to ask you, Larry, it's interesting that some of these sentiment numbers have been rolling over, and it has to be, in my opinion, the tariffs. First, you saw ISM rolling over. That was a 6-month low. You saw New York, was it New York Fed or Philly Fed rolling out over as well?
Philly Fed as well. Yeah. My thoughts on that are, obviously it's taking effect. It hasn't hit the stock markets yet, but it's definitely hitting businesses. I'm hearing a bit about it, just generally around from people that I know in business. And, overall, I think it's a negative, but obviously it hasn't hit the market. As far as Jackson Hole, I don't expect much out of there. As you said, it's pretty much apparent that they're in a tightening mode, but they want to be tightening, but not that quickly. But obviously, they're going to address the tariffs and all of that. So, we'll see what happens. And I think we've got really good insight from you today. And again, it's a quiet week, and if anything goes on, obviously you're in the FX chat area, and you provide unbelievable news and information to the marketplace. So everybody could see Greg there, and I wish you good luck today, and we will chat later.
Take care, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Greg.